No.
Okay. First of all, for the assignment that was due today, I said adding a gunshot sound. I want you to just simply upload the PNG or JPEG, a screen capture of how you added your sound to the
So you just want us to
blueprint.
screenshot the blueprint.
Just the blueprint.
Okay, cool. So
Just the audio blueprint.
Okay.
It'll save me from going around and hearing 20 different bang bang. I'm sorry? You have until midnight to get it turned in.
What if we have a sound other than
Well, but you know, it depends on your gun. Some are going. The gun I've got doesn't look like a bang bang. It looks more of like a whoosh or energy weapon. The nice thing about this is I'm just looking for your blueprint. I'm not listening to an audio occurrence of it. Okay, so we'll go with that. There will be, I'm regretting coming to class already. There will be an assignment due for next Tuesday that is based upon what we're doing in class today, and that is, the assignment is called Explode on Contact, which I don't suggest as a daily occurrence, but the assignment will make sense by the time we go through today's activity. Okay? And today we are adding drones. Woo-hoo. So let's go into our content drawer. I'm going to go to my blueprints, and I'm going to add a new folder, and I'm going to call that folder drone. I know, I'm such original naming. It could be worse. We're going to go with it. So this is where we're going to hold all of our drones. I'm going to go into the drone folder, and we're going to create a new blueprint class. And it is going to be based upon the pawn class. Now, remember the difference between character, which is what we've already used, and this is the pawn. So the pawn's in the inheritance scheme above the character. So we can give instructions to it. So let's name it BP for blueprint, drone, pawn. That's a pawn. It's a pawn. Okay. Let's go ahead and open that. Notice that the pawn class has a little pawn there. Oh, especially since it's recorded.
Yeah, that is very.
Yeah. Okay, let's add a mesh to this character. So I'm going to go to default scene root, and we're going to add a skeletal mesh, and this will be our pawn or our drone. I'm going to just call it drone mesh. And notice that it is a child of the default scene root. So I've got the default scene root here in the environment, and then the drone on top of that. We can set the mesh to that really easy. Remember, we went in and configured our drone at the beginning of this project, like 3 weeks ago or something. So we can add the mesh for the drone to the character. And it should be right there. There it is, my Bellica drone. Ooh. Ah. Cool. We can save this, compile it. And now if I go back to my scene, let's throw a drone in there. So I'm going to go back to my content drawer. There's my BP drone pawn, and I'm just going to drag it into the scene. Now currently, it's halfway underground because the root of the object is the center of the object. So it'd be nice to have that a little bit higher. So I'm going to go back to my BP drone pawn and go to the drone mesh, and let's just raise the drone mesh a little higher. That should look good. I'm going to save and compile it. And now when I go back to my first person shooter, you can see that back to my level, you can see the drone is now floating above the ground. That's still probably a little lower than what I want the drone to be, so I'm going to raise it just a little bit more. Get it to where you're happy with it. Because this thing's going to be floating around, chasing us, trying to blow us up, things like that. It's not a friendly drone. It's the bad type of drone. He's so cute! But it's not a friendly drone. So we got a drone in the scene. It's now floating above the ground, and it can come after my arms that are disembodied as my character. So we got our drone in the scene. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and save my level just so we've got it there. Good. Everybody got a drone? Cool beans. So let's make the drone. Now, the goal for this project, I'm not going to have this drone shooting at us. Instead, it's going to try and chase you down and explode. So the drone, we're not going to have to worry about firing mechanism for the drone, just an exploding mechanism for the drone. Now, there's going to be two different exploding mechanisms for the drone. One is when we shoot the drone, it will explode. The second is when it gets close to us within a certain radius, it will explode trying to take us out. That's my plan for my first-person shooter. So you don't want to get too close to the drones because they will try to kill you. They're not friendly. So I'm going to jump back here to my blueprint drone pawn. And since this is an event that's going to be called multiple times, the exploding part, I'm going to create this as a function to simplify calling it inside the environment. Because I'm going to need to be able to call it when I fire on it and hit it, which would be in my character blueprint, and within the drone when it gets within its radius and I can detect that it's gotten close to the character. We can detect that it's gotten close to the character and have it explode from there. So it'll be called multiple different locations, so we should treat it as a function. To do that, we're going to go over here to function, hit the plus sign, and I'm going to call it explosion. And you can see now we've got an active, when the explosion's called, what should it do from there? All right, let's save this. We'll call it pilot. And then I'm going to jump over here back to my blueprint first-person shooter character. And I've got all kinds of stuff going on in here. And the case, remember we were doing our firing before, that we would track the line channel of where the light where my gunshot went to. It would do a ray trace from that location into the distance wherever I'm aiming at. And if something intersects with the visibility, then we have an explosion. So we need to detect where that is happening. To detect that, we have this really cool feature in the break hit result called Did I Hit an Actor? Which would be our pawn. So I'm going to drag off of hit actor, and we're going to do a cast to drone. Cast to drone. And then from cast to drone, I want to call explode or explosion. There we go. And then our target, go ahead and connect the target. And that should do it. Now, of course, we don't have any kind of explosion going on, but now when I hit it with the gun, it will call the explosion function. It was that easy. Wow. Who would have thought? Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. So we've got the explosion happening. First thing I really want to happen, we did the play sound. We did play sound 2D. Now, what was the function of play sound 2D? Play a sound, but does it attenuate? In other words, does it make a difference how close? Did we worry about how close the gun was to us? No. Should we? Yes, we should for the explosion of the drone, because the further away the drone is, the audio should be less. And it should be directional. So if I've got a great sound, surround sound system running on my system or headphones or something like that, it should correctly tell me audio-wise what direction that's coming from. Thankfully, Unreal makes that easy. Because it's got this really cool function called play sound at location. Play sound at location. Wow. That's like almost easy. So we need an audio sound for this. So I'm going to go to the content drawer, and somewhere in my, I think the starter. Did we have the starter? That's modular. That's Bellica. We didn't put starter in this? Well, that's a problem. Well, then we're going to have to use a different audio. Maybe in the weapon? Do we have some? Yeah, there's some. Look at that. Away. Under my FP weapon. Oh, it's a template. Did it play? Here's somebody else's playing.
Yeah, you have to click over it, and then you have to play it.
Mine's not. There. That's not much of an explosion sound. I'm going to look for something different. We can do some things to the audio, which is actually the next thing I was going to show you how to do, but you got to have a bass sound to work off of. We've got some Lieutenant Bellica talking. I need a good explosion sound. Nope, no explosions under there. Gauge. Catchphrase. Nope, there's no explosion. Yeah, there's lots of voices, but no explosion. So I really wish I had included the starter pack because it does have some explosion sounds. I think I'm just going to go with the simple weapon audio for now. That is under FP weapon audio, and there's a first person template weapon fire 02. That's not too bad for an explosion, but it wasn't what I was hoping for. But we can live with it. Now, the problem with this, we can open the sound up. You double click on it. You can see that we've got a basic sound here. It's got some neat features, but it doesn't have the ability to do attenuation. So I'm going to going to create an audio sound cue first, and I'm going to call it explode. I'm doing it under the audio, under the FP weapon audio. So the first thing I did is I right-clicked and I created an explode cue. Sound cue. And this allows us to control the playback features of the sound cue. And then I'm going to open up, or the audio. So and then I'm going to open up the output, and I will drag into that output my first person weapon. There we go. And that's all it is. I've got my first person weapon for firing, and this will be the output. I'm sorry? That was in my content drawer underneath FP weapon. Okay, great. So if you want an explosion, to use the explosion instead, use the Discord. Yeah, it's just a WAV file. And you can use any WAV file for this. Now, inside your explode cue that we just created, and it can be any audio sound connected to that you want. If you type ATT at the top, you'll get your attenuation. Currently, there is no attenuation. Everybody knows what attenuation is, right? That's our distance from the sound. The further away we are, the more the sound attenuates from the distance, and so it doesn't sound as loud. So that's sound audio attenuation. Currently, there is no attenuation file associated with this. There's no sound attenuation to do this with. So we need to create an audio attenuation. So I'm going back to my content drawer, into the same audio as where my other audio was. I'm going to right-click and say sound attenuation. Gee, it's almost like they thought this might be a commonly needed thing. So I'm going to create sound attenuation, and again, I'm going to call this explode, and I'm going to put underscore ATT for attenuation. Explode underscore ATT. So that I'll know this is my attenuation file. And let's open that up. And notice there is all kinds of settings in this thing. I'm going to adjust the attenuation, which is down here a little bit. Actually, it's all attenuation. And for our volume settings, the very top part, attenuation volume, should be the very top of your file. You've got enable attenuation. How is it going to function? Linear is the normal. What's the inner radius? In other words, at this point, is the audio full volume or not? So 400 is currently set to be the full volume of the explosion. And then what's the maximum fall off distance? Currently that's set at about 3,600. I'm going to increase that to 8,000. So now we've got a fall off distance, and as long as I'm within 8,000 units of the explosion, I will hear it. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to explode, my explode cue, and now I'm going to set that to explode ATT. So now we have an attenuation attached to the explode cue. So we can save that. You've got which part?
Is it the sound that you added? That's where that is?
I am in the explode cue.
Yes. Oh, it's in. Oh, okay, I see.
And then add attenuation at the top. Yes.
Is there anything else that we're doing before we explode?
No. All I did was drop the sound into it and drag it over. That we only had to attach it.
Is that like settings on the left, right there? Is that going to be click output?
I don't have anything selected.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
All I did was type in ATT for attenuation.
Okay.
Okay, so there's all kinds of other things we can do to the sound, but all I'm really worried about is attenuation at this point, so that we can get that cool audio drop off. So I'm going to close my explode cue and my explode ATT, and let's see. Back on my BP drone, I've got play sound at, and now we can set that to our explode. And it should be the sound cue. You want the sound cue for this. Now we need to know where the sound is coming from. Unreal can't just simply guess. It needs to know, where do you want this sound played from? So we need to give it a location. So we need to get the drone's location. So get actor location. And that is self. It's already set to self, so it knows that we're talking about the drone, and we can give it that as the place that the audio will play from. So when it does explode, and we now have a sound attached to it, it will play the explode sound from a distance. How cool is that? So we'll save this, compile. And now we've got audio set up. Now, obviously, there's a few more things that we need this to do. And I'm going to go over to, still in BP drone pawn, I'm going to go over to the viewport. And I'm going to scroll down to the collision presets. So go here to collision and go to advanced. And that's not showing me what I want. Where is my collision? It should it be the mesh?
It is.
Okay, it is the mesh. Good. And we should be able to do our collision. There we go. Thank you. Yes, you need to have the drone mesh selected, and then you've got collision presets. By default, it says the drone does not have a collision. That would be a bad thing. We could never shoot it. Right? So let's give it some collision. We're going to set it to custom, and then we're going to go to collision enabled query and physics, which is the third option.
Oh, collision enabled. Okay.
Yeah, collision enabled query and physics. Now, using a little bit of English, query, meaning we can check and see if it's in the line of sight. I can query it with a ray trace, and it's going to be impacted by physics. In other words, it can't run through buildings. I'm sorry? Does not look like that.
It's world static, dynamic, quantum, physics, body, vehicle, and instrument.
Okay, you have the drone mesh selected.
Yes.
I don't know.
Maybe it's because I have wrong parts selected. That makes so much more sense.
That would explain a lot
I
of it.
was like, I don't understand.
Yeah, this is all under collision presets. You set it to custom, and then collision enabled for collision enabled query and physics. And that'll allow us to do the ray trace to see if we can shoot it and give it physics requirements as well on its collisions. Now, on our visibility, currently the trace response is set to ignore the visibility. We need it to block. In other words, make it solid. If it's visible, it blocks the view of everything behind it. That's what block means. So our ray trace now will be stopped by the drone when we are pointing our weapon at it. So visibility must be turned on or this will not work. Okay, so let's save that. Go back to our compile. I'm going to shrink that window down a little bit. And we need to jump back to the event graph, well, actually the explosion. And let's tell it to spawn some kind of an explosion emitter after we play the explosion sound. So dragging off of play sound at location, I'm going to need a spawn emitter at location. Now it's already got the location because we've got our actor. Do they?
I don't know, if I can explode it in front of drones.
No, yeah, dude.
Awesome.
Drone was made to die.
Drone explode. Well, isn't that nice? So let's use the drone explode for our emitter template. And We probably need to give it its location, which is still our get actor. Fortunately, that's just a drag off. I don't think we need to set anything else for that. So now, if we save, have we done anything that will actually make it explode yet? Yeah, we should be able to shoot it.
You shoot it, but it doesn't happen.
Oh, because we haven't turned on overlap yet. Okay, we'll get there. So what should happen after the drone has an explosion? Destroy the actor. That makes sense. So let's drag off of spawn emitter at location and tell it to destroy actor. Hey, look, destroy actor. Gee, that was easy. And now it no longer exists. And so we'll save, compile, and life is good.
What did you guys say? You said to destroy actor?
Yep, destroy actor. So we need the drone to be able to sense if we get close to it so that it can chase us. Because if it can't chase us, then it can't explode and kill us, right? That would be a really easy game if it couldn't do that. Oh, look, just shoot. Fish in a barrel type thing. But we need the drones to be able to defend themselves. To do that, we're going to go back to our viewport. We've still got our drone here. And we're going to add a sphere collision to the scene root. So I'm going to go to my scene root, add sphere collision. Just type in sphere. And look, there it is, sphere collision. So it's little bitty down there. This needs to be based off, let's go ahead and name it sphere collision. Just to keep track of it easy. And I'm going to drag it up so it's in the same place as my drone. And then we need to increase the size of that or scale it up. You can use that using either the scale tool in your details or you can use the R key on your sphere collision. Or I guess you got to do it in the scale. I'm going to up that to try 10, see how that looks. The sphere radius? Where's that at? Oh, sphere radius, right there. Yeah, I didn't see anything happen. 55's good? No, we need this to be big. Now, that would be fine for radius for when it needs to explode. 55 might be or slightly bigger. We want it to get a little further out. But we need something much bigger for when this gets closer. So let's try 200. That's still a little small. Because we want this is our chase. If I get within range of it, this is when it's going to start chasing me. So I'm going to try 800.
Oh, it's not that, not the scale. Wait, did you do it on 800?
I went to 800, and that looks pretty good.
That's only when we were in identified.
And now if I go back here, you can see the radius. In my level, got a little yellow outline around that. That'll only be visible when we're in debug. But that gives you an idea of what the radius is. What do you think? Is that big enough for a chase?
I think 1,000.
I think 1,000 is probably going to be appropriate for this. We want the game to be a little hard. So I'm changing the sphere radius. No, this is for it to chase you. If you get within that radius, it detects you. This is only to detect you. I haven't tried it yet. Because we haven't added all the components yet, so. It might work now. I haven't tried it. So I click on run. What happens? There it is, floating off there in the distance. I don't think I'm hitting it. There. Yeah, it did the explosion. Nope, that's just explosion for hit. Yeah, it didn't. The function didn't run. We'll get there. Okay, so we've got a radius here for for it to work. Let's jump back to our blueprint drone, and I'm going to go to the event graph. And we've got our sphere collision. And I'm going to, with sphere collision detect are selected, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to have it add on component begin overlap. Add on component begin overlap. I don't need these. And notice it already has, that knows that this is the sphere collision that's going on here. We need to know what is it overlapping with, because we don't want it to just overlap with anything. First of all, we don't want it to overlap with other drones. We also don't want it to overlap with buildings. It should not go chasing after buildings and exploding on a building. It should only do this if it detects our character. So we want it to, on component begin overlap, if the overlap is on the other actor, and we want to get the object name of the actor that is overlapping with. So get object name. And then let's just do a real simple, for testing purposes, print string for what the name that it's overlapping with. Now, if I save, compile, go back to my first-person shooter, I should be able to run up to it and see on the screen the name of my character. So let's try that. Yep, showed up. Yay, we had the interaction work correctly. even if it's not exploding yet. Did I call explode yet? No, that's probably why it's not exploding. In my first person shooter? No, I am calling explosion.
It's probably because it's just a function at this point, that we have to call the function in order for it to.
Well, that's the explosion. I'm calling the explosion
Oh.
function.
Oh. I thought you needed it in the drum font.
I don't think so. Oh, I know what the problem is. I don't have a, yeah. It needs to be coming from here to there. There we go. That'll make a big difference.
Oh,
Oh, error. Error? What do you mean error?
The end of the spotting meter to the beginning of the cast.
oh, so like spawn emitter to the cast to be.
Oh, instead of,
And then you'll go
Yeah,
to the.
instead of into the explosion, you want to.
That makes sense. so here to here.
Yeah.
Ah. Now. Save. Well, I had recompiled. Yes. Yeah, it can come through play sound. I just haven't added play sound to mine yet. Does it work? And
Particle explosion dies like instantly when it explodes because yeah.
Oh. If you went up to it, like go closer.
there, I got it to explode.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't told it to do the explosion when we get close to it yet. Oh, okay, then you got an error somewhere in the,
Is there a way to like delay when it releases bombs? That way like the explosion happens for a little bit longer? I just didn't.
to make it play a little, or to delay. I'm sure there's a timer delay that you could add half a second or something to it. Kai, what was your?
It's not, actually, I'm not like playing the drone or what. Is, I followed everything, so.
Okay, go to your drone. Show me your function. To explosion function. Oh, you don't have your explosion function. Okay, let me pull that back down. Yes, yes. You've got your event graph, but you don't have your explosion. So back here in our drone, the explosion function, you didn't have anything there. This is the explosion function. Yeah, explosion. This is what it should look like.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, I guess I was looking for the event graph.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay. Then I'm not sure. We'll figure it out. We're getting close. Okay, so in our, back to our event graph, where we're getting our object name, we're going to cast this to our first person shooter. Instead of printing that we've found that we've connected with the character. So I'm going to delete the print string. And then off of return value, or is that return value? No, off of our on component overlap, I'm going to do a cast to first person shooter, or BP first person shooter, or first person character. And then I'm going to, off of my cast to BP first person shooter character, I'm going to set the goal actor. And that's not right. Oh, that's the problem. Hold on. Just right click on as first person shooter character, right click, promote to variable. And that'll set it. So that's who we're looking for, our first person shooter character. And we want to, instead of doing the that should be our get object name now. So we're checking to see if the other actor object is the first person shooter. So if the other action is cast to the first person shooter character, that we set it as a variable name, and we're checking if that is the object. If it is the object, which is our execution here,
We could attach other actor to the object part of what.
Yes, that was a problem.
and then we could still output this as a print string. Next, we need the drones to be able to chase our characters. So how do we tell non-player characters where they can go in a map? A nav mesh. So let's go back to our level, and I'm going to scroll out here so that I can see the whole level. There's that weird floating building. That looks pretty good. And let's add to our layer the nav mesh. So we need to add a nav mesh bounds volume. Go to, where's that at? Under volumes. Hey, that makes sense. So there's nav mesh bounds volume. I'll select that. And now move that to your middle of your environment, approximately. And we'll need to scale that up. So R key, scale that up.
Is it inside the scene already?
No, you need to add it from your actors. Your quick add to project, the little box at the top, volumes, and then it should be right there at the top. Nav mesh bounds volume.
Okay.
And then we want it to fill the environment. And that tells the drone where it can fly. Now, if you want to see the impact on the environment or where the nav mesh is active, hit the P key. Well, it's supposed to at least. Theirs worked? You should get a green. Mine's not showing.
Oh, this is so cool. It's like updating itself over and over again.
Mine's not showing.
Did you click the pinky while you were selecting the nav mesh thing?
Yeah.
Do you have it on the ground?
Oh, that could be a problem. Where's that? Where'd it go? I don't even see my nav mesh.
Nothing this time, you never get
It may have, yes.
Just press F and focus on it so you can see where it went. Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah, it's floating. And it didn't resize correctly.
See it? So yeah, that's it. Is that it right there? So you can scale that off. No, not that. That's not it. You can scale that.
So play with the scaling until you've got it filled, and it should be below the ground when you're done. Not below, not all the way around, but it definitely needs to be sitting on the ground.
It's not going above buildings and stuff.
Yeah, mine's floating way up there. Which that throws it all off. Oh gee, it's a lot smaller than I thought.
Mine's like almost 100 by 100.
Is it? Yeah, my scale's only at 12. I need to up that.
Mine's 200 then.
Yeah, mine's about 30.
And you really only need to do the X and Y. Z doesn't need to be that much. I'm going to set my Z to 20. And I'm still nowhere near the ground because it's only saying the drones can walk around on top of buildings. So let's lower that to the ground. Oh, there we go. That's looking better. Still need to go a little lower.
Or what if you move around, if you scroll and you scroll in, you can change how fast or slow you move.
Okay. There we go. That's looking better. So we want the drone. Now notice we still have some problems in here. If you go too low, they can't go up on the sidewalk. Because if it's not green, the drone can't go there. So we need to make some minor adjustments to this. That can easily be done by going to your project settings. Go down to Nav Mesh. Navigation mesh, and that will give you control over your navigation mesh. I know, surprise. And we need to adjust the cell height. Currently, my cell height is set at 10. When I was experimenting with this yesterday, 100 worked better.
Draw offset, is that what it is? Or no?
Cell height.
And setting it to what is better?
100.
Okay.
And then we can close our project settings. Or you can just dock it if you want to see if that worked. And that seemed to work really well for my environment. So now the drone can go anywhere on the side, anywhere on the ground. It's not limited.
Ooh, I see like there's something interesting with this, like with those, maybe like all over the buildings are, so you have to like.
Yeah, well, but still, we've locked the drone to the ground, so it's not going to be able to go up a series of steps or something like that, unless we've got the nav mesh allowing for that. Now, it would be nice if our drone actually could move. So I'm going back to the BP drone pawn, and inside my scene route here, I'm going to add floating pawn movement. Hey, look, floating pawn movement. Who would have thought that would be useful? I guess the people at Unreal. Now we're going to be able to use AI move to move the pawn. That will be in our event graph, yes.
You said,
Floating pawn movement should be added to your components.
default scenery?
Yeah, just under your default. That's where I put it. Default scene.
Oh, it's not attached to it.
Yeah. And then off of our set that we've got here, let's tell it to move. So we're going to add AI move to. We need it to know what it's moving, so which is going to be self. So I'm just going to add a self object or self node, get reference to self, and drag that to pawn so it knows what to move. And we want it to move to the target actor. Not sure we need the object name anymore, so I'm going to remove that. Yeah, we don't need the object name anymore. So we're casting to our blueprint first-person character. If that gets within our radius of the object, our overlap, then it's going to move towards the character. Now, if we've done everything correct, if I go back to my first-person shooter and run, now if I move towards it, ah, whoa, it comes right after you.
Yeah.
Then something's wrong.
Oh boy. I'm literally stuck inside the mesh and I can.
Yeah, once it comes, well, that's why we have it explode. Because it will stick to it. It continues trying to move towards us. It's scary. Make it stop.
Can we slow down the movement?
We can slow down the movement. We can also change the acceptance radius. Currently that's set at 5. We can up that to, say, 100.
Also doesn't like move itself or
It comes right at
it
you.
comes right at you no matter what rotation, like it's not.
Well, and we'll fix the rotation.
Yeah.
But right now it's just, oh, there you are, move towards you. We're not telling it to orient towards you and then move at you. Okay. Now for your assignment. And then we're going to do some troubleshooting. You need to add a second overlap. None of this is new. This is all things that we've already done in class. You need to add a second overlap sphere. I want you then to add a new overlap event for the drone. And when the drone gets close, I want it to explode. So call the explode function. So we're going to add a second collision sphere, just like we've already done. You'll add a second collision sphere, except for this collision sphere is going to be for exploding. Then when it gets close, I want it to explode. And the submission for this is to turn in your blueprint screenshot. It's easier than it sounds. You've done all the steps already, you're just reassembling them in a different order. Okay? That's your assignment for Tuesday. And on Tuesday, we will finish, we'll change the drone orientation so that when it's moving at you, it is moving at you head on. And we'll also get some patrol points set so that it's actually moving around, patrolling between areas so that it is more scary. And then we will add our combat. So Tuesday we'll finish the drone, add combat. Thursday, we're just finishing up the UI and game mechanics, keeping track of health, things like that. So we're almost done. There's only just a couple more steps to this, and it will be a fully functional game. Woohoo! First question, go for it.
How, so I know we went over this in class, so like, how do we fix the materials?
Yeah, you go back to the object,
Yeah.
the drone.
How do I reset it?
You, on the materials itself, you use the drop down and select a different set. So there was like drone 0 and drone 1 on materials, and we just simply changed it to drone 1.
You want a screenshot for the homework?
Yes, just a screenshot for the homework is all I'm asking for. Yes. The move to? Yeah, if you've got the nav mesh, this is in my event graph for my BP drone. Once you've got that, you're going to drag off of the cast to BP first person character. In other words, it knows you have gotten too close. We upgraded that to a variable. And then off of the set, we're doing an AI move to. And then we have a self telling it that we're moving the pawn, and it's moving towards the actor.
What do we have? And it's still not working.
Check your nav mesh.
Now this is green.
Yeah, the nav mesh is green, and it's still not moving towards you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gosh, you expect me to have all the answers? Oh, and if you get tired of seeing the green, just hit the P key again, and it should turn it off.
Kind of enjoying the reading.
I feel like it's because it's not actually moving around because I can actually move my back.
So you're not moving. So it's a character movement problem, not a drone movement problem.
Not that, I think it might be the up and down problem.
Oh, the look around?
Yeah, moving.
So let's go back to our character.
X-axis, but not the
So yours isn't doing the y-axis on the look around. Well, here's my look around. Do you have both variables here? 'Cause notice on my look around, I've got one for, yeah, I've got one for y'all, one for. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, that is true. What about
Look at this issue, like if you shoot, you have this thing.
I can shoot it. That's why you have that shoot.
That's what.
what's the input?
That,
No, the items.
yeah, why not harm them down? So I just didn't do that.
And they would actually visit the
Yeah, let's see what mine is. So compare. Oh, Art, did what did you name your look? Because there's,
It's
okay, in the batch that we pulled in, there was already an IA look. So if it's pulling up the wrong look, instead of the one you created, it could be doing it wrong. And my IA looker, which is what I named mine so I know it was different, was mouse XY 2D axis. Is there? No, I don't have any array elements. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording since we're just troubleshooting now.